Hi, my name is Scott Downing. I'm a PGA golf professional and also the Director of Instruction here for the Legends of Indiana. Today we're going to be discussing a pitch shot and how to achieve a better pitch shot. It starts with knowing what club to use. And even though a pitching wedge has the name in the title, okay, a pitching wedge is not necessarily the best choice. In a pitch shot, we're looking to hit the ball high in the air, and once it hits the ground, it's not going to roll very far. So it has a long air time and a short ground time. In that instance, we want to have a club with the most loft that we can find. That being, for me, a 56-degree wedge. Now, there are also 60 and 62 and even 64-degree wedges. I suggest that you start with a 56 and starting out and really mastering it, and then move on from there. But nonetheless, let's talk about the difference between the pitching wedge and the sand wedge, and that is loft. Okay, loft. And the loft of the face is actually the pitch of the face, and as it heads toward the sky. I'm going to display that here by putting this club on the ground. This is the pitching wedge right here, and we can see that is actually the loft as it's shown there with the shaft pointed toward the sky. If I put the 56-degree wedge down, without me falling down here, we can see the 56-degree wedge has a lot more loft. In modern times, they have actually taken a lot of loft off the pitching wedge. And in most cases, the pitching wedges only have about 44 degrees to maybe 48 degrees. And the sand wedge has remained solid with 56 degrees. So we're going to put the pitching wedge back in the bag in this instance. Much better to use for chipping than actually pitching these days. But the pitching wedge is very important to understand a couple things about it. A, we are trying to loft the ball in the air, so we need to get the club underneath the ball. But we need to get the club underneath the ball without hitting the front edge of the club on the ground first. And to do that, what we're going to do is we need to identify the bounce of the club. The bounce of the club is actually located here on the bottom edge right here. It's the tail that sticks down underneath the leading edge. I actually have a very large wedge here that I'm going to show you with. Okay, this is actually a child's toy, but nonetheless, it is a wedge. And we're going to put the bounce of the club on this little plate right here, and we can actually see the leading edge of the club is actually off the ground. Yet, we can still get that club underneath the ball. Most people are thinking that they want to get the leading edge of the club completely underneath the ball, and that's just not the case. We don't want to get the club completely underneath the ball. If it goes straight up in the air, we wouldn't have any distance on it. So, we just want to get the leading edge of the club, or the center of the face, enough underneath the equator of the ball. And the equator is this little line that you see right here. If we hit the bounce on the ground, that's going to be enough for us to get the center of the face underneath the equator of the ball, and that's going to make the ball go up in the air. We don't have to get way underneath it. Move our body and transfer all kinds of weight to try to make the club go all the way underneath the ball. We just don't need to do that. So what I do is start out with, I'm going to start you out with a balance disc, okay? Because what we need to do is we need to find solidness of contact and be able to repeat that. The best way to do that is stability in your pitch shot, and that is stability with your lower body. In pitching, we want to keep our feet on the ground. We also want to have our feet pretty close together. In this instance, if I have my feet close together and I keep my weight in the same spot the whole time, if I swing this club here with two fingers, okay, the bottom of that arc right there is straight underneath this axis. When I put my feet out and apart, and I start transferring weight back and forth and turning my hips and driving the hips and doing all kinds of things and bringing the right heel off the ground, I'm going to start to move that axis around. Okay, I do that, I'm starting to move, I'm moving the axis. Well, where's the club bottoming out then? Well, it's still underneath this axis, but we don't really know where that is from swing to swing. Depending on how hard you drive your hips, you might not ever find the bottom of the swing. So, nonetheless, the way I train this is I actually stand on a balance disc. I'm going to take the balance disc, I'm going to stand on it, trying not to fall off. Even though I'm wobbling around on this balance disc, because I'm not falling off, I'm still staying in the center. So what I do is I take some practice swings, moving my shoulders. The shoulders are the engine of this swing. Okay, the shoulders are the engine. So I want to take this, I want to allow my shoulders to move. Notice I'm not falling off this. I am wobbling around and my voice is shaking, but I'm not falling off, and I'm also able to find the bottom of my swing. That's what we're looking for. Stability. You're going to say, well, your hips are rotating. Well, yes, my hips are rotating. As a result of my shoulder turn, my hips are turning. Okay? That's just part of it. I mean, if you stay completely stable with your lower body, you would start to lose a lot of touch. We want to remain still relaxed, okay? We're just not going to be transferring weight, okay? So, what we want to do is we want to keep the engine of our stroke running. Since we're not using our hips anymore and our weight transfer to generate power, okay, we want to find our power source, and our power source is in our shoulders. Okay? So, what we're going to do is we're going to start to rotate the shoulders and move the club shaft in the middle of this stick. You can see right here, I've formed a perfect T. I'm going to keep that club in the middle of that stick. You're going to see, even though my hips are rotating, I am not transferring weight. My center is staying right in the middle. That way I'm going to be able to find the bottom of the swing time and time again. And that's going to give me solidness of contact. And that's really what we're looking for. From there, then you can start to develop a touch and a feel. Then you can start to realize how high the ball is going to go. You can start to control the trajectory rather. Also, you can start to control where the ball is going to go and the direction that's going to go in. But it all starts with solidness of contact, and that starts from the ground. Okay? So I'm going to put a ball down here on the ground. A couple balls here. And what we're going to do is we're going to pitch a couple. You're going to notice a couple things that I do here. First of all, feet close together. Also, ball underneath the center line of my body, or my button line. Standard grip. I'm going to keep my feet on the ground the entire time. I'm going to move my shoulders back and through. Okay. Right shoulder back behind me, left shoulder back behind me. And I'm going to keep this triangle between my arms and my shoulders constant as I keep the shaft of that triangle, okay, or the tail of that triangle, from wagging. And that's going to produce a nice high lofted shot. And one that's going to help your game, for sure.